Okay, welcome to this installment of the Attached playlist. Previously, I've talked a lot about songs, I've mentioned movies, I've mentioned this, I've mentioned that. But this time, I want to review, spoiler alert, Season 1 of Love is Blind. Now, the show is an exceptional window into attachment styles, into toxic psychology, into the behaviors that we do in one setting versus another, the incongruency that a lot of people have. There were at least 6 couples. It was Amber and Barnett. There was Cameron and Lauren, my personal favorite. Kelly and Kenny, which are so boring that I think these are the sorts of couples that are excluded in future seasons. I don't want to misconstrue that. They're boring in the sense that there's no drama. For TV purposes. Their love is actually really quite beautiful, and it makes me very happy to see. Jessica and Mark. Every season there is a villain. For me. The one I say, ew. And I mean that. But I will say this. It is projection. I know myself. I know why I say this. I am very biased. I will never deny that. Even my music selections, everything else. But Jessica, ooh, what a hurricane. I would say fearful avoidant. You can tell when she deactivates. You can tell when she's being anxious. Just the wishy-washy. But she's not a bad person. Let me just say that. She's just got some stuff to deal with before she's ready for that relationship. Some things to ruminate on. I hope she has. It's been years since season 1. Then there's Diamond and Carlton. Carlton was a puzzle for me for a long time because he came in all, ooh, I'm the best. This man was so full of insecurity. And it took me a long time. I thought, is he a narcissist? Is he toxic? No, I just think he's constantly talking to himself about his insecurities. And, I've been honest. He likes to try to talk himself into narratives that aren't necessarily true. So he's an interesting one. And then there's Damien and Giannina. Sorry. Forgive me if you're watching this. I doubt it, but forgive me. They're an interesting couple, too. So, recap. Watching this show, knowing how it ends, I really enjoyed watching it with the omnipotent perspective. Whenever I'd read, I have the subtitles on, because I have an auditory processing disorder. Subtitles help me understand and stay immersed in a show. I don't let people into my heart a lot. When Mark said that, I thought, don't let this one in, man. But to focus on each couple individually, we'll make the rounds. I would say Mark is definitely an anxious preoccupied. If you're watching, maybe it rings true. Maybe this video will help you come to some terms, who knows. But the way he put that Jessica on that pedestal and said, no, this is it. This is all I want. Jessica or bust. And then what he went through, that poor guy. Because that hurricane did not spare him. How Jessica said, I need to pursue other things. Because she heard what she wanted to hear when Barnett said, if no one else were here, I'd leave with you. If no one else. No one. If it was just you and me, if we were alone on an island, yeah, I'd do that. And she heard, ooh, he'll propose to me tomorrow? Ooh. She feels like a victim, I'm sure. But he was very deliberate in his word choice. He didn't lead her astray. I have a lot of respect for Barnett. I will say this, I have a lot of respect for Jessica, even doing the the right thing in telling Mark, I'd like to pursue other things. You're really not doing it for me. Just, Mark. Oh, Mark since day one. Oh, no, I gotta pursue other things. Oh, Mark again. And then when they meet in person, then she meets Barnett, and then it starts again with the, oh, yeah, you're too young. I would say Mark exhibited more maturity than Barnett, even if Barnett was closer in age to Jessica. That man had a certain... He knew what he wanted and he went for it, and that's really admirable. I know someone who's done that in his current relationship. Date one. Okay, so well, that's Jessica and Mark. The one thing I'd say about Mark, though... maybe I'll come back to it. It's a whole season I'm trying to summarize in one episode. Cameron and Lauren were my favorite. I would guess they're either a mix of secure or both anxious, preoccupied. The way they attach to each other so quickly, it reminds me of how quickly an anxious, preoccupied can fall. I mean, the speed at which people fall can be a red flag, because narcissists can be in kind of a hurry to get their person to get attached and get their supply going. So there's a certain amount of that goes on. But then the anxious preoccupied can fall fast. And I argue the anxious preoccupied is more in tune and more open to love. There's always a trade-off, right? But for that reason, they're also more willing to let toxic individuals in. But anyway, I really loved Cameron and Lauren. If you know who I'm with, you would see, well, oh, that's kind of obvious. But it was so simple. They meshed so well. I'm a scientist, so I really like Cameron from that perspective. He was my kind of person. And then Lauren was beautiful. They're on par with each other in terms of attractiveness. That really makes a difference in a relationship. I think it's one of my... When people are similar, it makes it creates an ease that wouldn't otherwise exist, unless. Well, anyway. Amber and Barnett, I really liked. I liked that Barnett went for the thing that scared him most. A lot of people choose what's comfortable, what's familiar. He didn't. I have a lot of hope for them. Yeah, Barnett, he had 3 people he was talking to. When I watched the series again, I thought, man, did LC and Mark ever talk? Because I almost could see that working. But I'm not a matchmaker. So Amber and Barnett, I liked their whole thing. I liked the I want to have sex every day thing. I like their chemistry, so what kept, as I was watching this show again, kept coming up over and over again, how men are like, oh, I don't let people in. I think there was at least one woman to say the same thing. I don't let people in very easily. I think this experiment with them not being able to see each other really helps people get past a lot of their the flaws they would otherwise perceive. I know that I believe that love is attainable between any 2 people, but there are obstacles. Because love is the ultimate power in the universe. Love can be attained. You got a drunken hookup at a party, you could probably still get love out of that. It's not necessarily the healthiest way to go about it, but it is possible. And I think that removing certain obstacles helps people get there in a way that wouldn't otherwise. So a dismissive avoidant perceives flaws, focuses on those flaws, and that is an obstacle. There's also the component that they're used to handling their own emotions. So maybe putting a wall there makes them feel safer to let their emotions out, where they're not completely not self-soothing. That voice on the other side of the wall. It allows them to touch their emotions in a way that wouldn't otherwise. It allows them to deconstipate their emotions. Because a lot of men are emotionally constipated. A lot of women too, but it's been genderized in our society to a certain extent. Emotional constipation. So I like that this show removes certain obstacles. Love, they say love is blind for two reasons, right? They say love is blind because if I love you, then I don't see you. I don't need to see you to love you. But then there's also, if I'm in love with you, then I'm blind to your flaws, which is where Mark was so pedestaled Jessica so hard. He didn't, you're everything I want in a woman, he kept saying. But then there's all these other things. Like you're wishy-washy and you're this and you're that. And once you realize, like, okay, this person's everything I want, but then there's this other stuff. Technically, even if they're everything that checks your boxes, this other stuff makes them not the person you want. Because that stuff's undesirable and unhealthy and not good. Okay, we're going to get to the lyrics. There's this beautiful site. I would love if TuneFind would find them their way to being one of my sponsors, because TuneFind is fantastic. They missed some of the songs. On each episode, they and someone put in the descriptions of what's happening in the episode when the song plays. This is pretty awesome. Diamond and Carlton. Okay, Carlton. I say, based on Kinsey's theories, 95% of the population of human beings are, to some extent, bisexual. Heterosexual and homosexual are the 2.5%. Pure, like, oh, yeah, that's it. So if you're looking at a bell curve, right, 95% just have some amount of bisexuality. You don't have to agree. This is something that was posed by someone who studied sex back in the day. I don't remember when Kinsey came out. But in my human sexuality class, I have a textbook. I could look it up if I really wanted to. So, it's very normal. But a lot of people would say, no, you're either gay or you're not. There's no bisexual. It's like, there's this... It's gray. No one likes gray. Everyone likes everything to be black and white, right? And then there's a lot of homophobia and this and that goes on. And Diamond expressed a lot of, well, I'd be worried that he'd leave me for another man. Like, I want to know She actually really impressed me with how thoughtful she was, how tentative. I just need to think on this. This feels like you blindsided me. And Carlton kept saying, I was honest. You were honest late in the game. So yes, you were honest, but you could have been honest up front. And Diamond kept saying that, and it's absolutely true. That man couldn't, once he was triggered, once that kicked in, he couldn't hear anything she said. And then they kept turning up. And someone threw a ring into a swimming pool. It didn't go well. I don't know that it could have gone any differently. Carlton was not in a place to hear what she had to say. She needed to be heard. Because once you lay something on someone like that, okay, you could have told them, you could have said it up front. Maybe she wouldn't have gone for you, but at least you would be in an honest relationship. This is why COVID made everyone front load. Oh, well, I'm going to tell you everything before we even. People like to front load stuff. Because I want you to reject me before we're in love. Not hope that love turns you and makes you realize that I'm a good thing and you won't leave. And he kept saying these logical inconsistencies too. Like, other people don't mind. It never mattered before. Then why'd you hold off? Why didn't you tell me before? If it didn't matter before, why didn't you tell me before? So that poor guy. I pray for him every day. Hopefully he's better. And I feel bad that Diamond got taken for that ride. But I am, again, really impressed with how thoughtful she was. And she was almost, I think, willing to hear him out and maybe even going to come around. But watching again, I'm here for you. I'll always be here for you, no matter what. When she said that, I thought, oh, no, you don't know yet. You can't say that yet. Don't say it unless you mean it. Go through all the machinations in your head. Don't say it unless you mean it. Because think of the worst case scenario. You didn't have to say that before you knew everything you could know. Anyway, I shouldn't laugh at people's pain. I'm not laughing because that's Man from Mars or some book where this human being that was born on Mars, was raised by Martians, comes to Earth, and then he realizes he groks that people laugh because that's how they cope with pain. I think that's very true. Damien didn't know what he was getting into when he was proposing to Giannina. And her at moments of hesitation, she had a lot of the same energy as Raven in a later season. The whole pacing around. And anytime the emotions become uncomfortable, people start moving. They can't be seen, so you don't know that they're doing it. But then when she said, I'm as strong as you, I'm your equal, I said, okay, I like this. But the whole tearing his clothes off and just having her way with him, when you're emotionally unavailable, sex isn't as connected to that, and that can happen sooner than in other attachment styles. That's all I'll say about them. I'm not surprised that it ended. They had trouble communicating, and she was very unavailable. Yeah. And then I saw him later, and was it not Ultimatum? What's the other one that these two hosts do? The House. Oh, Perfect Match. I thought, yeah, okay, makes sense. Yeah, I like Damien in a lot of ways. He reminds me of me. A little bit of the ugly duckling syndrome. But the show was good. I enjoyed it. The drama. Jessica wishy-washing back and forth. You're too young. Just that box she had in her head of focus. Fearful of winning because she would pedestal mark everything I want, and then she'd focus on, he's too young. Pedestal, focus. Oh, Barnett wants me? I'm focusing on his age. Oh, Barnett doesn't want me. Alright, he's pedestaled again. Fearful of winning, so they're called the messy kind for that reason. I listened to some of these songs. Final Teardrop. Final Teardrop. Sometimes the songs, okay, these producers, they pick a song they think it'll really tug at your heartstrings, but I feel like it misses the mark. It misses what's happening on screen, right? Sometimes the lyrics don't really match. Like when someone's being triggered, or my soul is on the line. A lot of it feels that life and death, like, oh my god, I gotta do this, it's life and death. When Barnett was just so unsure of what to do, and he curled up, he doesn't want to hurt anyone. I get that. But sometimes the music just doesn't quite match, because someone is triggered, and the song is, it's based on the fallacy that things aren't trauma from childhood. Sometimes things are trauma from childhood, and they affect us in different ways. Like when my ex would be on her phone, I would be flashing back to my childhood unconsciously. Like when I'd come home, I'm excited to tell my parents what happened at school today. No, TV's on. So here's this phone. Well, TV. Phone and TV. Oh, it's the same. You're occupied. You can't pay attention to me. So sometimes music just doesn't hit that note. Like it's really an unconscious thing that's going on here. Dancing in the dark. Yeah. We might even have to do another episode with just the music. I want to do an overview. I'm going to do another episode with music and talk about what was happening in the series when it played. But thank you for watching. I hope maybe when you're watching the show, if you go back to season 1, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I can see these attachments. I can see them happening. I can see when the person's triggered. I can see when they're not being rational. They're acting on trauma from 30 years ago. It's pain. I laugh because it's pain. Thank you for watching. Hit subscribe. Subscribe. You don't have to hit it. That's violent. We don't need violence. Comment, please, if you disagree. I would love to interact with people. If you disagree that maybe Carlton was narcissistic, I think he's just very insecure. Or maybe Jessica isn't fearful of him. Maybe she's just dismissive. I don't think. Kelly and Kenny, maybe they're not so boring. Maybe they're very interesting. But I thought their love was very beautiful. It didn't get those ratings, you know. They're the couples that get ignored in later seasons. Alright. Thank you, and have a nice day.